Hey guys, it's Destiny, and today we're going to be going over the best Castorice teams. And before we get into today's video, I would love to know if you guys are personally pulling for Castorice, or if you're potentially going to save for someone else, and if so, who would that be? Lastly, if you guys enjoy videos like these, do make sure to subscribe, leave a like to support the video, and now let's get straight into it. I thought we can start off with a character overview of Castorice, which she will be a Quantum Remembrance character who is an HP scaling damage healer. She will revolve around the team's HP changes, which can consist of allies losing and gaining health within battle. When it comes to Castorice's skills, she'll attack an enemy and adjacents, as well as deplete all allies' HP, but when her memosprite Netherwing is on the field, she'll now unleash a joint attack with her skill, which will hit all enemies as well as deplete allies' HP. As for how to summon her memosprite, this can be through her technique for the beginning of battle, but of course, from that point on, you would be looking at her ultimate. Now, her ultimate isn't based on energy, but instead New Bud. And New Bud is gained through allies losing or gaining HP. So once Castorice reaches 100%, she'll be able to use her ultimate and summon her memosprite Netherwing. Netherwing can also gain back HP from allies losing or gaining HP as well. And Netherwing will of course be a huge source of her damage output, as that is her memosprite. And her joint attack, of course, when the memosprite is on the field, will be able to contribute nicely to her damage output as well. And when it comes to Netherwing in general, I did recommend this in one of my previous videos, but I would recommend ensuring that all of your buffs are active on Castorice and Netherwing prior to using up all of Netherwing's HP, just to ensure that Netherwing is able to, of course, unleash as much damage as possible. Some additional things that also happen when Castorice uses her ultimate is she'll create a territory, and she will also be able to advance forward Netherwing by 100%, and Netherwing will be on the field for up to 3 turns, or of course, once you use up all of Netherwing's HP, you can make Netherwing go away faster as well. Overall though, we have another HP scaling damage healer coming up, so I thought now let's go over her teams. So here we are with Castorice. She currently is all alone, but not to worry, I will add some team members for her very soon. As mentioned though, since she is an HP scaling damage dealer, that does influence what type of supports we will be pairing alongside her, and which supports will be able to heavily amplify her damage output. So starting off here with an initial team, and of course we are going to add alternative supports as well. Well, when it comes to Castorice teams, let's just start off with the hyper carry teams. So with Castorice, of course, she would be having now 2 supports who are able to highly amplify her damage output. And then of course you would have a healer on the team. The primary reason I would recommend a healer is just due to the fact that she is going to drain, of course, the HP of the team. And as I mentioned earlier, she takes advantage of allies gaining HP as well as losing HP. So because of that, in the case of gaining New Bud, and then of course when her memosprite Netherwing is on the field, gaining back some HP for Netherwing as well. So when it comes to our healer options, there are multiple options you can use. But in the case of Gallagher and Luocha, I like these 2 a lot in particular. Luocha because he's going to be able to create a healing field, which of course whenever allies attack enemies, you will be able to restore HP, which is very beneficial, especially if your supportive options are going to be able to have some sort of attacking frequency, or just are able to attack enemies in general, which this is why we'll get into Tribbie in Remembrance Trailblazer in a moment here. As for Gallagher, whenever enemies are afflicted with Besotted, now when allies attack that enemy, they'll be able to restore HP. Very similar in the case, I would say, as Luocha, where your allies now, in the case of Castorice, and then of course the other 2 supports, are also going to be able to attack enemies, and this will now result in you gaining HP, which is beneficial for gaining New Bud. So now when it comes to our supportive options, right now on the screen, I have Tribbie and Remembrance Trailblazer, which once again, I will go over alternative supports as well. But the reason why Tribbie and Remembrance Trailblazer are really nice in general is, of course, Remembrance Trailblazer is free, and what they'll be able to do is give Castorice as well as Netherwing mem support, which mem support will now enable them to deal true damage onto enemies, which will definitely help when it comes to improving their damage output by quite a lot. And the 100% advance forward that you will be able to provide can also be beneficial in the case of advancing forward Castorice or even potentially considering advancing forward Netherwing depending on the situation. In general though, Remembrance Trailblazer will be a very nice option for Castorice, and of course since Remembrance Trailblazer can attack enemies when it comes to, Mem's punches, and then also of course the ultimate, this will assist now with, in the case of Gallagher, inflicting Besotted onto enemies, and in the case of Luocha, his healing field. This now allows Remembrance Trailblazer to gain back HP. So as a result, this benefits Castorice because you will be able to gain new bud out of that. Additionally, when Remembrance Trailblazer uses their skill, they will also be able to heal Mem, so that's something as well. And when it comes to Remembrance Trailblazer's buffs in general, they will be very beneficial for a character like Castorice. And when it comes to Tribbie, she will be able to attack enemies pretty frequently in comparison to a bunch of our other supportive options due to the fact that she does have those follow-ups in her kit. Of course, her ultimate also attacks enemies. So in the case of Tribbie, due to the fact of how frequent she can potentially attack, at least Tribbie gaining back more HP, which now results in, of course, as I mentioned with the other characters, you're going to be able to gain more and more new bud as a result. So Tribbie being a more offensive support is very beneficial in this case. And of course, Tribbie's buffs are also very, very valuable for Castorice. Since Castorice is an HP scaling damage dealer, she won't benefit from attack like how attack scaling damage dealers would. So in the case of Tribbie, her buffs will be able to benefit Castorice as her skill will be able to provide the ult type res pen for the team, which will now improve Castorice's damage, but also of course Netherwing's damage. And then when Tribbie's zone is active, Castorice as well as Netherwing will be able to take advantage of this. So in general, Tribbie will be a very, very powerful support to pair alongside Castorice just because of all the benefits she'd be able to provide when it comes to the buffing capabilities, which these buffs of course support the rest of the team as well when it comes to their damage output. As I mentioned, her attacking frequency will be very beneficial, especially when either the enemies have Besotted inflicted onto them or Luocha's healing field is up. Now Tribbie will be able to gain back a nice amount of HP, which is awesome in the case of gaining more new bud. Of course, though, if you do not want to use Gallagher or Luocha, you can use other healers as well. For example, Luocha, you can consider potentially using a character like Bailu. And if you don't really have too many healers, then of course I would just use what you can use. But in the case of healers I personally recommend the most, at the current moment, it would be Gallagher and Luocha. Now, of course, there are speculations about Hyacine, and I personally think that Hyacine will be a healer as well, which in that case, she could end up being a very, very fitting partner for Castorice as well, just depending on what she ends up doing, if she does end up being a healer and so on. We'll have to wait and see in regards to Hyacine, but for right now, I would highly recommend Gallagher or Luocha as one of your primary healer options alongside Castorice. But once again, you can use alternative options. Now, of course, when it comes to alternative supports, I already talked about Tribbie, I talked about Remembrance Trailblazer. Okay, so now we have a little Sunday on the screen, which if you don't have Tribbie, then I guess in that case, you could put Sunday in that slot. Or if you don't feel like using Remembrance Trailblazer, you could potentially put Sunday in that slot instead. Just kind of depends on what characters you have. But in the case of Sunday, what he will be able to provide is, of course, the crit damage, the crit rate, the damage boost. When it comes to his ultimate, since Castorice doesn't use traditional energy, she won't be able to take advantage of that aspect. However, she will be able to, of course, take advantage of the buffs that the ultimate does provide. And of course, the 100% advance forward that Sunday provides will be able to push up Castorice as well as Netherwing, which can result in Castorice attacking more often. And of course, if you have all of your buffs active on her, this could be very beneficial to just be able to deal a bunch of damage output onto enemies. In the case of Sunday though, something definitely to keep in mind, at least through my own testing, is that whenever Netherwing goes away and then you have to resummon Netherwing, I would try to ensure that of course you can get all of your buffs active on Netherwing again before, let's say, those 3 turns come up and the Netherwing, of course, uses up its HP and deals those additional instances of damage. I would highly recommend trying to ensure that you are able to have a relatively good upkeep or uptime, I would say, on the buffs that Castorice has as well as Netherwing. So that's something to keep in mind when you're just playing, I would say, Castorice teams in general, since Netherwing will be appearing, disappearing, appearing again. So that is something to keep in mind. Sunday can still be a really nice option, especially for the attacking frequency that you can take advantage of. Now, when it comes to more supports, we're just gonna have a bunch of supports on screen. We're gonna do it that way today. We do have Miss Ruan-Mei over here, which there is an option to actually get a free Ruan-Mei coming up. And if you guys want a video regarding if I recommend Ruan-Mei, Luocha to potentially save the token, whatever it may be, do let me know in the comments down below and I can definitely make that video for you all. But when it comes to Ruan-Mei, she will be also able to provide pretty nice buffing capabilities when it comes to her ultimate, being able to provide, of course, that old type res pen, her damage boost, and so on. So Ruan-Mei can be a nice option, and I did get a couple comments about this, wondering this regarding what about the poet set? Ruan-Mei is able to increase the speed of the team, so does this affect the poet set? And the answer is no. The poet set is based on your speed before you enter battle. So in the case of Ruan-Mei, she increases your speed once you are in the battle. So because of that, casters will still be able to fully take advantage of the poet set. So that is something to keep in mind. I was just getting a couple comments about that, so I did want to just address that. But Ruan-Mei can be a potential consideration. You can also use, where is she? I'm trying to find her. Okay, now the screen is getting a little cluttered, but it's okay. You can use Pela. Pela is going to be able to provide AoE defense drops onto enemies, which now result in your team being able to deal more damage onto enemies. Of course, in the case of casters, she'll be able to nicely take advantage of this so that her and Netherwing can deal more damage onto enemies. And of course, if you want to make a more budget-friendly Castorice team, you would be using Castorice, Pela, Remembrance Trailblazer, and then I would say Gallagher if you primarily want to use her with 3 5 stars and of course 4 stars. But if you do have a character like Tribbie, for instance, I would highly recommend using Tribbie alongside Castorice, and of course whatever other supports you have. There is a bit of variety in which ones you can take advantage of, depending on just who you have in general. I may get questions regarding, let's just say, Bronya and Sparkle. So my main thing about those characters in particular is that you will have to decide if you're going to advance forward Castorice or if you're going to advance forward the memosprite, which is Netherwing. So that's the main thing I would see potentially, I guess, maybe being a negative here, especially considering the fact that you will have to try to make sure that you are buffing both of them. So trying to have a good upkeep on those buffs as well. So that's something I feel like keep in mind if you are considering using those characters. I would just honestly recommend Remembrance Trailblazer more, just because of the fact that with Remembrance Trailblazer, you will of course be able to enable Castorice as well as her memosprite to be able to take advantage of true damage through mem support. So that's why I'm a huge fan of Remembrance Trailblazer when it comes to just as an overall option, but also a very, very powerful free option for her. Now the screen is officially super cluttered, but you can also consider a character like Jiao Cho just because of his debuffing capabilities, the vulnerabilities he'll be able to inflict onto enemies, which can end up benefiting the team's overall damage output. So he can actually be a consideration as well if you do have him and you would like to use him. We already talked about the healers. There's multiple healers you can take advantage of. I also did give my personal recommendations regarding that. But now when it comes to, let's say, a dual DPS Castorice team. All right, here we are. I just changed up the screen a bit. We have Mighty, Blade, and then Peppy. No, I'm just kidding. We have Arlen. Peppy is so cute though. I'm waiting for us to get a freaking Peppy pet. I need a Peppy pet, okay? These characters have some HP manipulation in their kit. Mighty we just recently got. Blade we've had for quite a while, and also Arlen. So they all do have some HP manipulation. I did want to mention just all of them like grouped up together. And in the case of Castorice, why this would benefit her is due to the fact that, as I mentioned, she takes advantage of allies losing HP and gaining HP. This can end up being beneficial for her and can just end up being a pretty fun team overall. I will be testing out dual DPS Castorice just because I want to have fun with it. I would assume that Hypercarry Castorice is more than likely going to be stronger. However, I still think this could be a pretty fun team option to end up using. And when it comes to your supportive option, as you guys can see, I have Tribbie, Pela, Mem is right there. Of course, there's other options you can use as well, but me personally, I do like using a team-wide buffer if I'm going to be using 2 DPS characters, just so they are able to both take advantage of the buffing capabilities of whatever support I put on the team. In case of Pela though, what she is going to be able to do is those AoE defense drops, which now allows Castorice as well as Mighty to deal more damage to enemies. And then when it comes to Tribbie, she'll be able to buff Mighty as well as Castorice on a pretty large scale when it comes to just the old type res pen, and then when her zone is active, enemies being able to receive more damage from your allies. So because of that, Tribbie will be a powerful option when it comes to if you are going to use the Castorice and like Mighty combo, or maybe Castorice and like Blade combo, whatever it may be, this could end up being pretty fun overall. And of course, you can use alternative supports as well. I just have a couple on screen right now, but that's what I would say regarding at least just dual DPS teams for right now. I will be uploading a bunch of Castorice showcases very, very soon just to show her off for you all. If you do have a team recommendation though, do let me know in the comments down below and I can end up testing it out for you, and then potentially also, of course, uploading a video on it. So do let me know regarding that. And if you have any Castorice teams that you've thought of as well, be sure to share them in the comments. Just like, what do you guys think about her? What teams are you going to experiment with? Or even if it's a team I already mentioned in this video and you do plan to pull her, what team are you going to end up using? But I hope you all did enjoy this video, and if you did, do make sure to subscribe, leave a like to support the video, and I hope to see you all next time. Peace.